What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Game Day with Trey. Of course, this is your host, Trey, and today we're going to talk about this Eastern Conference Finals Game 1 matchup between the Indiana Pacers and the Boston Celtics. All right, so this game will be played 8 p.m. East Coast time on Tuesday night. All right, the line did open up over under 221, Boston minus 9.5, and it's since moved to over under 222, Boston minus 10. But you can still get it at minus 9.5 at some spots, especially if you're looking at the Hard Rock. Even though it was at 10 a little bit ago when I actually first went in to try to put my bets in, guys. But let's look at this, man. Let's talk about this series. So right now, ESPN is saying on their matchup predictor that the Pacers only got a 27.9% chance to actually win this game. All right, now on the season, Jason Tatum's leading the team in points and rebounds. Jason Tatum's averaged 26.9 points per game on 47.1% shooting and 8.1 rebounds. Whereas Tyrese Haliburton on the season, he was leading the team in points and assists. Haliburton giving you 20.1 on 47.7% shooting and assist 10.9 assists per game on 32.2 minutes. Now, I mentioned those stats for those two specific players because those are the key cogs that are really going to let you know what's going to happen in this series. Really, it depends on how well Tyrese Haliburton can distribute the ball, work against Drew Holiday, and actually put up some points. Now, the positive is that the Boston Celtics will be missing one of their key players, all right, which stretches the court and clogs the lane because you have to remember the Pacers, they do get most of their points in the paint, guys. All right, so the person that's missing is Kristaps. Yeah, he's still out. Okay, Kristaps is still he's still dealing with that right calf strain, and he is unlikely to be on court against the Pacers in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals, guys. And that's very important because the way he stretches the court and the fact that he crashes the boards the way he does, a 7'2", 7'3" unicorn, he does his thing, man. And it's also important because right now, the Pacers are the number one offense in all of the playoffs. Now, they didn't play 13 games. They average 114.2 points per game on 50.7% shooting from the field in the playoffs. That leads all teams that are playing in the playoffs right now and how they've been playing, that leads all teams, guys. Okay. And then when you're talking about shooting from three, they shoot 38.1% from three. Also leads all teams out there when you're talking about shooting from three, guys. And that is really important in this series because of the way Boston plays their defense. But let's talk about Boston's offense. Boston's offense is actually the number 3 offense in all of the playoffs right now. We only talk about 4 teams, but nonetheless, they are the third best offense out the 4 teams. They only average 108.1 points per game, guys, and that's on 10 games. Now, that's less games than any of the other teams have played, all right? But at the end of the day, the more games you played, you're still averaging 114.2 points. That means you're still putting up numbers, and you're shooting 50.7% from the field. I'm just saying. But there's a lot to look into in this game and in this series, and we're going to keep going. So when you're talking about these two teams, all right, and you're talking about how they play just on the season, because on the season you got a larger sample size, you can see how they play on a consistent basis and what they've been doing on top of what you've already been seeing with your own eyes in the playoffs, all right? And we all know that Indiana, it was number 1 in the NBA, shooting 58.7% from the 2-point range, okay? And Boston's, their defense was number 3 in all of the NBA, only allowing 52.1% from 2. Another key thing, Boston's defense against the 3. Boston's defense against the 3 was number 4 in all of the NBA, only allowing opponents 35.1% from 3. Whereas Indiana, their 3-point percentage was 37.4%, number 8 in all of the NBA. Now let's invert that. Boston's 3-point percentage against opponents is 38.7%. That's the best 3-point shooting team in all of the NBA, which we already know that. But when you're talking about Indiana, they allow people to shoot 36.4% from three. That's 16th in the NBA, man. And that's going to really hurt them in this series. Hence why you see such a large spread in game one. Then look at the 2-point, okay? 2-point offense. Boston's 2-point offense shoots 57.5% from two on the season. That's number 2 in all the NBA. Then you look at the Pacers. They actually allow people to shoot 55.6% from two. That puts them at the 23rd worst, best, whichever way you want to put it, man. All right. Defense against opposing teams shooting 2-pointers, guys. That's very, very important, okay, when you're talking about a series like the series that we are coming into right now, especially when you kind of break down how their scoring was on the season. So in the first quarter, Indiana usually allowed they scored 30.7 points, okay, whereas Boston gave up only 27 points a game. Now that puts Boston's defense as the number 4 defense in all the NBA versus the Pacers' number 2 offense in all the NBA. All right, but then when you look over here to how Boston's offense is in the first quarter, Boston's offense scores 31.5 points a game, and the Pacers, they give up 30.1. So obviously right there you're going to see an edge to the Boston Celtics in the first quarter. I would honestly probably be looking towards that. Matter of fact, what is it the first quarter? Let's take a look at that real quick, guys. The Boston Celtics first quarter, what are they giving up right now? Wow. Yeah, you're not even allowing me to look at it. That is ridiculous, guys. But we do know what they're giving up in that first half. In that first half, Boston Celtics are giving up 6.5, just so you guys know. But anyway, let's get back to what we're talking about. All right, so in the second quarter, the Pacers averaged 30.8 points per game, which is number 2 in all the NBA. Okay, and the Boston Celtics, their defense is number 8 in all the NBA, only giving up 27.4. Okay, but then when you invert it, Boston's offense is number 1 in the NBA, scoring 31 points a game. And Pacers, their defense is the number 29th, man. They give up 30.6 points a game in that second quarter. So who would we be looking to in that first half? Well, you can obviously see the disparity, man. 30 to 27, let's say they actually score the 27, okay? All right, then Boston's still going to have a 4-point lead after the first quarter. All right, and Boston's most likely going to score more than the 31.5 that they usually score, or the 30.1 that the Pacers usually give up, just because of the fact that Boston scores like that in the first quarter, man. So that they might have more than a 3 or 4 point lead. Then when you get into the second quarter and you're looking at that 30.8 and Boston still only giving up 27.4, let's say they score 28 or 30. Let's say they score 30. Well, Boston still scores 31 points a game, and Indiana is the second worst defense in the second quarter in all of the NBA, guys. So that means they could give up another 32 or 33 points. Okay, we're looking at we're looking at something that's close to an over in the first half, because the over is set right now, over under for the first half is set at 113.5. Man, that is highly doable. That's highly doable because Boston might actually put up 60 points, 60 plus points, and that is crazy. But at the end of the day, it's not really too crazy considering the fact that the Pacers are coming off of Game 7. So let's go ahead and let's finish looking at this. So in the third quarter, the Pacers averaged 31.1 points per game. That's number 1 in the NBA. Boston, they are number 4 defense in the NBA in the third quarter. They give up 26.9 points, okay? And whereas Boston's offense in the third quarter is 13th, only scoring 28.8. And the Pacers, they still are a horrible defense, giving up 29.4 points per game. And all this does include the playoffs, guys. These numbers I give you include the playoffs, okay? So it's something you should kind of take heed to. I know you can't change much in 13 games, but at the end of the day, how you play is how you play, all right? Bill Parcells used to say something like, well, what your record is what you are, or something like that. Well, that's what it is. What you see in the numbers over a consistent basis, that's what it is. Okay, and let's look at the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter, Indiana Pacers number 2 offense in all of the NBA. All right, they averaged 29.1 points per game, whereas Boston's the number 2 defense in the NBA, only giving up 25.7. So it's lockdown senses in that fourth quarter. And then when you look at how Boston's offense comes out, though, they come out lacking. If you notice, the third and fourth quarter are the opportunities for the Pacers to come back, guys, because the Pacers defense is still trash. They give up 28.6 points in the fourth quarter on the season. But with Boston only scoring 27.2 points, that's the number 22nd offense versus number 23rd defense. And then in the third quarter is Boston's number 13th offense versus the number 22nd defense. It's only like 0.6 points between where that actual number is or where they actually sit ranking-wise, guys. Though Boston's defense is like that in the second half, their offense be lacking so much. Now, you could attribute that to the fact that they had big leads. You could attribute that to what you want to. But the numbers I'm about to give you will tell you what you should actually be attributing that to, guys. All right? Which is against the spread. Okay? Against the spread, the Boston Celtics, as a home favorite, were 25-20-2. Whereas, as an away underdog, okay, the Pacers were 16-13-1. In the playoffs, the Pacers are 7-6. Okay, now we know they had some game 7s and game 6s, so that means a lot. And Boston is 6-4 against the spread. All right, meaning that even though Boston only lost the second game to Miami and the second game to another bum. Okay, we won't even mention their name right now. All right, but yeah, no, man. There's a lot to understand when you're looking at this, guys. And let's go ahead and let's keep going. So when you're talking about these two teams and you're talking about how they've actually been performing in the last let's say this playoff, right? Now, since the playoff started, we all know how the Pacers' record is 7-6, and Boston's record is, since the playoff started, it is, oh gosh, where'd it go? There we go. It's 6-4, okay? But the way that these two teams have been playing, okay, did Boston cover against Cleveland every game? No, guys, they didn't. Okay, they allowed Cleveland to win one game. All right, they allowed Cleveland to cover when Cleveland was getting the 13 points in game, and what was that, on 5-13? They allowed them to cover again when they were, what was that, game 2? Like, game 3. All right, like I'm not understanding how a team like Boston can be such a dominant team. Okay, like they have it. They actually have it. They're a team that could click. They're a team that could at any point in time could turn it on, start hitting threes, and do what they need to do. But they get so far into themselves on shooting them threes that they kind of pull themselves out of the game. If they're not hitting those threes, they have some serious problems. That's how the Cleveland Cavaliers were able to beat them. Okay, that's how, and not just beat them, cover on them, and then that's how Miami was able to beat them and cover on them. All right, like that is the crux of the situation. Can the Pacers stop that three? But then when you're looking at the Indiana Pacers, right, and you're looking at them since they came into the playoffs and how they've been playing. Now, the lowest amount of points the Pacers have scored is 91 points, and that was against the New York Knicks. Okay, the most points they've scored is that 126 against the Milwaukee Bucks. But when you look over here to the Boston Celtics, okay, in these playoffs, they're really not getting over that 114. They got a 118 against Miami in what? Game number 3? Well, I'm sorry, game number 5. But outside of that, in game 1s, they scored 114 against Miami in game 1. They scored against Cleveland, they scored 120 in game 1, 120-95. All right, now let's look game ones for the Pacers. Game ones for the Pacers, they lost game one, 109-94, okay, to Milwaukee. They lost game one, 121-117 to the New York Knicks. Are we seeing a trend here, guys? I'm just saying, like, just pay attention to the signs. Look what they gave up in game ones. Game ones against the Bucks, they gave up 109, and then against the New York Knicks, they gave up 121. Now the New York Knicks they weren't fully healthy, but they were more healthy than Milwaukee was. So then their offense was putting up numbers at that point in time too, and they were running and gunning, guys. Remember what I'm telling you, because it will lead you to the cash if you're trying to get there, man. If you're trying to get there. If you're just here for analysis and trying to find out about the game and what I like and what I'm seeing in the game, that is cool, and that's why I give you all this information. All right, so head to head. These two teams have played each other 5 times this season. Boston leads the series 3-2 straight up, and they lead against the spread Indiana leads against the spread 3-2. Okay. So it switches when you're talking about with the spread. Straight up, Boston does lead, all right, 3-2. But Indiana against that spread, yeah, they covered 3 times out of the 5 times these two teams have played. Okay, now when the Pacers covered, they were getting 8, they were getting 3.5, and they were getting 4.5. Okay, so that range for them to cover is there at any point in time. Those games were on January 30th. It was 129-124 in Boston, and Boston won by 5. Pacers were getting 8. That went over the 249. The 5 times they have played, it has gone over 3 times out of the 5 times. So that's also something you might want to pay attention to, guys. The least amount of points that the Boston Celtics have scored against them this season, all right, in the 5 games, is they scored 155 in the first game. They scored 112 in the second game. They scored 118 in the third game. They scored 131 in the fourth game. And they scored 129 in the fifth game. So if you notice, it is a zigzag type deal. Now, as far as how their scoring goes, I'm sorry, because they got the 155, yeah, it's a zigzag. It goes Boston wins, Pacers win, Boston wins, Pacers wins, Boston wins. Now, both teams have, Indiana has not beaten Boston in Boston. Okay, the last time Indiana beat Boston in Boston was way back in 22. December 21st of 22 is the last time that they actually beat Boston in Boston. The score was 117-112. Indiana covered the 9.5 points that they were getting in the game, did go under the 232. So that's also something you might want to pay attention to and understand, guys. But let's get back to this, all right? So as a home favorite, but we all know Boston's 41-6 straight up, and the Pacers are, as an away underdog, are 13-17 straight up. In the playoffs, we know that the Pacers are 8-5 straight up, and Boston's 8-2 straight up, guys. Now, against the spread, like I said earlier, as a home favorite, the Celtics are 25-20-2, so they do cover in this situation, but the Pacers do also cover. They're 16-13-1 in this situation, guys. All right, and that's something you might want to pay attention to. But when you look at with a rest disadvantage, the Pacers are 7-10 against the spread. And with a rest advantage, Boston Celtics are 16-12-1, guys. All right. Yeah, you got to always pay attention to the signs. You got to always pay attention to the signs, man. All right, now, what over-unders as a home favorite, of course, Boston is 26 to the over, 21 to the under, and the Pacers, as an away underdog, are 17 to the over, 12 to the under with 1 push. All right, that's important because of the fact that we know what type of pace the Pacers tried to play with, and we also know that the Boston Celtics can put up points, guys. And this over-under for the game line for the teams right now is set at the Celtics 115.5 and the Pacers 106.5, guys. So those numbers can be reached or achieved. All right, but that's all on your decision and how you feel about it. But let's also look at with rest advantages versus disadvantage. With a rest disadvantage, the Pacers are 9 to the over and 8 to the under, meaning they lack on defense. And with a rest advantage, the Boston Celtics are blowing people out. So it's 18 to the over and 11 to the under. All right, so they're going to put up the numbers that they need to put up, and they're going to allow you to put up numbers if you want to, but they're going to be blowing you out by that point, guys. That's just how the Boston Celtics play. In the last 3 games, the Pacers are averaging 112.3 points per game, giving up 111. That's only a 1.3 winning average margin right now, guys. But when you look at the Celtics are scoring 109.3 and they're giving up 97.7. Y'all take that how you want to, man. So that means that by average, it's 11.7 points that this team wins by. And you know that can tell you a lot about a team, especially a team that for some reason just gives up game twos like the Boston Celtics give up game twos, man. All right, so where am I at? What's my leans? What I'm going to go with? I'm loving the Celtics over 115.5. I'm definitely going to get there on that. I'm probably going to play the over. I might buy a couple points and turn it to a single game parlay. Might drop it down to like, where we at? Dang, I could have got it at 218 earlier. That has moved. All right, well, you know, I can still rock with the over 220.5 and still play minus 125. That's definitely beautiful money on that. I'll actually like that a little bit better, to be honest with you. And probably gonna get there with the 9.5. The Celtics. That's just the way to go. I don't see any other way if you're gonna play with the spread. Definitely don't mess with money line right now. But yeah, I love the Celtics. I love their team total over. I love the actual over. I think the Pacers can put up some points, regardless of how this is going to go. I think the Pacers can put up some points, but am I going to get there with the Pacers? I don't know. I'm probably going to get there. Definitely getting there with the Celtics team total over, the over in the game, and Celtics minus the 9.5, man, or 8.5. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. Y'all have a blessed day. Stay safe. Please like, subscribe, react in the comments. Let me know how y'all feel about this. Am I giving you all the information? Am I giving you too much information? We can always correspond, man. I react and respond to everybody. All right. Y'all have a blessed day. Stay safe, man. I'm going to holler at y'all. Peace.